I wanted to take a moment to expand a little bit on what I spoke about, or what I wrote about the other day, about how a cold makes you sexy, but how we can have cold-like attraction patterns. Somebody asked a question, Nicole asked a question about how do we get rid of those cold-like attractions. And, I was being a little bit funny to talk about that, or to say that we can have these patterns in ourselves. And when Nicole asked, how do we do that, my response was, I gave an answer, but it is really complex. And I also said in there that it's something that we dive into in my my training that I do, the love codes, and it is. But I also didn't want to just kind of fob it off and say, well, we do it in the training. So I wanted to give a little bit more of a comprehensive answer to that question, because it is a really good question, and it's a really fair question after I said what I said. And let me try to remember exactly what I said. I was explaining how, that's right, how the cold virus, we found out from Dr. Carl, who I love, that the cold virus, sometimes when you have a cold, you're more attractive. And that this is actually a true thing, that the cold virus has worked out a way to do it. Maybe it makes your skin better or something, your eyes shinier. It's done this so that it to help it propagate itself. I mean, that's so full on, but it's true. So, and I mentioned how we have some negative relating patterns within ourselves that are kind of like that cold virus. We get attracted to people that are going to fulfill our negative relating patterns, and it's like a cold virus, because we're attracted to people, we find them attractive when they are going to actually propagate or continue this negative relating pattern that we have. And it's because of attraction styles, or attraction patterns, I should say. So to give a brief kind of look into that and understanding, so that I can answer the question a little bit more comprehensively, is that we have this idea, each of us are imprinted with an idea of what love is. Now, love is indescribable, really. We can do our best to try and describe it. It's very difficult. But those of you who have children will understand it, maybe that it's that unconditional feeling of love and regard. And those of us who love somebody unconditionally, that gets close to the idea of love. However, when we're growing up, as children, however our parents make us feel, or our number one guardian, however we feel with them, as a child, we relate that to what love is. So we decide that that's what love is. However we feel when we're with our primary guardian is what we decide love feels like. And we do this for lots of reasons. One of them is survival, because in order to survive as a child, we need to feel loved. We need to be loved. And so we need to believe that that's how it feels to be loved. It's not a wrong thing to do. It's not a bad thing to do. It's just what we do. It's an imprinting. When we're between the ages of 0 and 3, we're living in a brain state that's very similar to hypnosis. So everything that's going on around us is embedded into our unconscious. So we believe, decide, imprint that however we feel when we're with our primary guardian is what love is. And so we hold that pattern within ourselves. And then we grow up and we continue to hold that pattern, but it is incredibly unconscious. We are not aware of it. Even if you're a really conscious person, even if you do lots of self-work and what have you, it's still unconscious. It's deep in the unconscious, unless you do work specifically to tap into that, to pull it out, to understand what it looks like, and to change it. And that's how we change it. That's how we can change that pattern. If you don't change it, it ends up looking like, in your life, attracting partners or people that with them you continue to feel that way. So for an example, let's say you had a parent that was disinterested. A parent that was maybe had a whole other life going on. They didn't really give you much attention. They'd give you a moment of attention, but they were never really present with you. And let's say how that made you feel. That made you feel invisible, unimportant, like nobody cared. Now, that's not necessarily true that the parent didn't care, but that's how it made you feel. So you're carrying around with you this imprint that people don't care, that I'm not important. So in your life, your unconscious mind will be finding situations and people that will support that feeling within you. And those people and the way that they support that feeling in you will differ. That's why you might meet a potential partner, your first one, and you have this relationship and you end up realizing that you feel unimportant, that they're never around. Let's say they travel a lot and so they're never around, and eventually you break up with them because it's not working, and that's fine and you move on. That's normal and healthy to have a relationship and for it to end. And then you meet somebody else and they're home all the time. They work from home. They're around all the time. And so it looks really different. They don't look anything like the last person. However, in the relationship, you feel the same. You feel like they don't care. You feel unimportant. And you start to think, if you've got a level of consciousness, you start to think, well, there's a pattern going on here. What's going on? And you think that it's you, because why am I still feeling this way? And you're starting to get closer to the point, because it is you. You're carrying this imprint within yourself that's attracting you to people who are going to help you to feel that way. This person may not be traveling very much or may be around all the time, but they might be a really aloof person that is not very attentive, and so on and so forth. And until you find out what your really deeply embedded love code is, that's been embedded into you from childhood, you will continue to find situations. They'll look different on the outside, but you'll experience them in the same way internally. So the way to change it, in answer to the question, is to find out what that embedded relating pattern is, what your embedded love code is, that is deep within yourself and deeply hidden in your unconscious. And then once we find out what it is, that's the hardest part of the work, really, bringing awareness to the negative pattern, and then we can change it. And that takes a little bit of a skill set and a bit of a recoding to something that's healthier and more aligned. And we find out what's more aligned to you, because it's not what's right for one person isn't right for the next person. So then you need to find out, well, what's a healthy and aligned pattern for you to instill that's more closely related to love, to true unconditional love. So hopefully that's answered your question. Of course, we can't do this right here and now. This is something that, that I, as I said, I do this in my training, the Love Codes training. But even just giving you this information, for those of you who are watching, and everybody who's on my page has a level of consciousness, so you can start to tune into that and at least start to become aware of it and see it, how it might be playing out in your life. And so hopefully that's helped a little bit. And then you can start to, you start to change the, I just want to add, the other thing that we do then is we change the internal navigation changes. So we change the goalposts, and we set up a different goalpost, which is actually really about love. And then that internal navigation changes. So then you start to become attracted to people who are going to give you an experience of feeling love, of feeling healthy love, of feeling self-love, of feeling confident, of feeling safe, of feeling warm, and all those things that we actually want to feel in love. So hopefully this has helped a little bit. And if you have any questions, please post them down below and I'll answer them as best as I can.